The Wat Tyler Rebellion, also known as the Peasants' Revolt of 1381, was a significant uprising in England that was closely tied to the socio-economic pressures exacerbated by the ongoing Hundred Years' War. The rebellion was a response to widespread dissatisfaction among the lower classes, particularly peasants, who were suffering from heavy taxation, harsh living conditions, and the economic burden of the war with France. Background: social and economic strains. By the late 1370s, England was experiencing a series of economic difficulties due to the protracted conflict with France. The Hundred Years' War drained the English treasury, leading to increased taxation, especially the poll tax, which was levied on every adult, regardless of their income. This tax was particularly harsh on the poorest members of society, who struggled to pay the growing demands of the crown. In addition to the heavy taxation, the Black Death 1347 to 1351 had caused significant population loss in England, leading to labor shortages. As the population recovered, the surviving laborers were in high demand and many peasants sought higher wages and better living conditions. However, the nobility and landowners, seeking to maintain their control, passed sumptuary laws that sought to restrict wages and control the movement of laborers. This created widespread resentment among the lower classes, who were further embittered by the economic strain of the war. The rebellion, the rise of Wat Tyler. In 1381, the growing unrest reached a breaking point, leading to the Peasants' Revolt, which was led by Wat Tyler, a blacksmith from Kent. Tyler became the symbolic leader of the uprising, which was fueled by a mix of anger at the poll tax, resentment over feudal exploitation, and frustration with the ruling elite's handling of the war. The revolt begins. The rebellion began in Essex and Kent, but it quickly spread across southern England. Thousands of peasants, craftsmen, and laborers, many of whom were disenfranchised by the government's policies, rallied behind Wat Tyler. The rebels marched to London, where they aimed to confront the king and demand reforms. The march to London. The rebels, emboldened by their numbers, marched toward London in June 1381. Upon reaching the city, they began to sack and burn properties belonging to the aristocracy and the church, including the Savoy Palace, the home of the Duke of Lancaster. The rebels also freed prisoners and destroyed documents that symbolized the oppressive system they sought to overthrow. Key events in confrontation with the king. The rebels were able to enter London and demand an audience with King Richard II, who was only a young child at the time. The king, under the guidance of his advisors, agreed to meet with the rebel leaders in an attempt to defuse the situation. Wat Tyler's confrontation with the king. The pivotal moment came when Wat Tyler met the king's representatives at Smithfield. During the confrontation, Tyler was killed by William Walworth, the Lord Mayor of London, who feared that Tyler's bold demands could incite further violence and threaten the monarchy. Tyler's death marked the beginning of the revolt's decline, the rebellion's end. After Wat Tyler's death, the remaining rebels were eventually pacified by promises of reform from the young King Richard II. The king, in an effort to restore order, promised to meet some of their demands, including the abolition of the poll tax. However, after the rebellion was quelled, Richard II reneged on his promises and began to crack down on the leaders of the revolt. Many were executed, and the poll tax was reinstated. Consequences and legacy. While the Wat Tyler Rebellion was ultimately crushed, it had lasting consequences for England. 1. Political impact. The rebellion exposed the deep social divisions in England and demonstrated the growing dissatisfaction with the monarchy and the nobility. Although the king initially made promises to address the grievances of the peasants, the long-term effects of the revolt led to some minor reforms in the taxation system, although the overall feudal structure remained largely intact. 2. Symbol of resistance. The rebellion became a symbol of resistance against the oppressive feudal system and the harsh economic conditions that were exacerbated by the war. Wat Tyler became a folk hero for later generations, representing the struggle of the common people against the elite. 3. Influence on English politics. The revolt led to increased political awareness among the lower classes and a greater recognition of the need for reform. Though the rebellion was not immediately successful, it paved the way for future challenges to the monarchy and the power of the aristocracy. For impact on the Hundred Years' War. While the rebellion itself did not directly affect the course of the Hundred Years' War, it highlighted the growing domestic instability in England, which made it harder for the kingdom to maintain its focus on the war with France. The rebellion also drained resources and weakened the monarchy's ability to support military campaigns abroad. Conclusion: the Wat Tyler Rebellion of 1381 was a significant uprising that reflected the socio-economic tensions in England during the latter part of the Hundred Years' War. The revolt, led by Wat Tyler, was driven by frustration with taxation, feudal exploitation, and the harsh realities of life during the war. Although the rebellion was suppressed, it left a lasting mark on English history, serving as a symbol of resistance to authority and an early example of the social upheavals that would continue to shape the nation in the centuries to come.